All right, you finna go ahead and get it started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode 208, we're going to be discussing the most important relationship you can build. A few things I want to say before I go ahead and get it started. Make sure you go ahead and follow me on Twitch, TikTok, Rumble, and on Spotify at Life of a Champ podcast on every single platform. As well as make sure you go ahead and tap in with my YouTube shorts as well as my YouTube clips. Hopefully, I'll be doing some more YouTube clips here soon. So if you can't catch a full podcast but still want to get about 5 to 12 minutes of the game that I've been talking about in the podcast, I'll be doing that and hopefully posting more frequently. Other than that, if you do not know me, my name is Champ, and I help men build their foundation of masculinity. Like I said, for today's episode 208, we're going to be discussing the most important relationship you can build. And just to inform you on what that relationship is, this is going to be the relationship that you build with yourself, right? And the reason why I even feel the necessity and the reason why I even feel an obligation to make a podcast like this is because I see all too often that there's people who are lacking the fundamental basics of a relationship with themselves, and it leads to a lot more problems than what they should or even have to deal with. And I'll get into a lot of it, but this is something that I've personally observed within my own life. And I would say I'm a lot more attentive to trying to build a relationship with myself. And I don't necessarily see that same effort being applied to a lot of other people around me. And when I do see it applied to other people around me, it also has a great effect on their life as well. Before I go ahead and get it really started, shout out to Anthony. If you know me, I have a best friend named Anthony. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Anthony! And yeah, 23. You already know what time it is, man. But yeah, we'll get into the podcast. So obviously, the question that you must be asking yourself, because I've mentioned the title already, how can you build a better relationship with yourself? And that is a good question. I would say there's going to be a lot of different elements that can contribute to a better relationship with yourself. But I would say it is finding ways in which you can be present. That's going to be the first thing that I want to mention on today's episode. Whatever this looks like for you, and I'm sure it's going to look different for every single person. I'll give my own personal examples here soon. But how can you allow yourself to be away from distraction and be more presently in the moment? The reason why we feel ways of anxiety or if we feel distracted is all going to be in is all going to go back to the simple fact that we're not in the present moment. We're not focused on the right now. We're focused on the past. We're focused on the future, and we're everywhere that isn't exactly where we are. And that is a huge problem that I see all too often, and something that I want to reiterate. So if you're a person right now watching this, that you can kind of tell you're starting to feel these specific ways that I've mentioned and that I will mention later on, ask yourself the question: are you truly building and taking the time that is very very necessary for yourself to go ahead and build that relationship with yourself? And it sounds kind of silly because you're always with yourself. And I would say it's also pretty funny that you can be with yourself at all times and also not treat yourself the way that you're supposed to be treated, which would look like taking care of yourself, which would look like building a relationship with yourself, cultivating a better relationship through certain activities, right? So, kind of getting back on topic, right? I mentioned the fact that you need to be more present within your interactions, within your interactions with yourself, right? So, what this can look like for you is going to be maybe going on a walk. This is a huge thing that has been definitely a great that has definitely had a great impact within my life, and something that I would recommend a lot of people to go ahead and do. Just find some time. We all have time, and it's a matter of just making time to go ahead and put forth this effort where you're just going to go on a walk. Allow your mind to roam wherever it needs to roam. Think about whatever it needs to think about. Process whatever it needs to process, and just be there. Right? No other place to go besides the walk that you're going on. Trying to discover whatever you need to discover. Trying to uncover whatever you need to uncover within that walk. And I feel like even if it's 10 minutes long, that's better than nothing at the end of the day. I would say ideally you probably lean closer to 15, 20 minutes to give yourself enough time to process whatever you're trying to process. But that is going to be one way that I would say is part of how you can build a better relationship with yourself. And I'll mention a few more things that I want to mention on today's episode. But I have one thing that I do want to mention before I go ahead and go forth with the podcast. If there's any specific ways that you know that you've done when it comes to building a relationship with yourself that you think could help, that you think that potentially could help somebody out, please feel free to leave it in the comments for sure. So yes, obviously, I'm a huge advocate for building a relationship with yourself, and I would also strongly argue that most don't actively have or try to build a relationship with themselves that allows them to be more intentional or more present, like I mentioned. And this is going to cause problems when you're trying to figure yourself out, right? Figure out what is going on within your life, figure out what you want to do, figure out how you want to move within this environment or within this world. If you're not taking the time to think about what needs to be truly processed over a long period of time and actively checking in daily with yourself, you're going to get distracted. There's things that are going that there's going to be things that need your focus that you're truly not going to have focus on. And this is why you would need to build a strong relationship with yourself. And through whatever activity that you choose to go ahead and develop your own relationship with yourself, you must understand that it is a constant upkeep of maintaining clarity. You're going to seek clarity through whatever means necessary, and you're going to want to maintain clarity through whatever means necessary. But at the end of the day, it is a constant upkeep that must be had. And without that, you're going to run into a lot more problems. And one thing I want to mention, just in case you want a little bit more of a clarification of when it comes to being present in the moment, what are you searching for? What would, for my example, what would be the utility in the walks or whatever I would decide to do that is going to allow me to build a better relationship with myself? This would look like me asking questions to myself about my life that if I had clarified would better impact my life. So asking questions, giving myself time to process mental challenges, right? Evaluating problems, evaluating my own values, and truly just giving yourself time to think and reflect, right? I've had a few periods of my life where I didn't have a job, and it had allowed me to really come to the full understanding that most people don't have time and don't make time to think. And thinking and processing your life and what's going on within your life is one of the most important things you can do. And if you fail to do this, just know that you're causing a lot more problems. Not only is that a problem, but that problem is going to cause even more problems for you not taking the time and putting in the necessary effort and energy into yourself. So it must be done intentionally. It cannot be done and should not just be done passively. And that is what I see all too often. Most people think they can get away with doing this, building their relationship with themselves. They think they can get away with doing it passively. They think they can get away with doing it secondary while something else is primary. And it needs to be more than just that. Because here's the thing: at the end of the day, if you're doing it secondary, which can happen from time to time, but if you're just doing it secondary, that means you're supposed to be doing something else that is primary, which also means that you're not present, which means you're not giving what you need to give in order to be better at whatever you're trying to do that is primary, which means you're even not doing what is secondary as good or as focused as you should. And that is a huge problem in itself, right? So not only there's just so many problems that are right there, let alone all the problems that can cause, right? So I just named like 3 problems within one interaction, right? So not only is your mind roaming to things that hopefully it should be roaming to, right? Like I said, asking questions, processing mental challenges, evaluating problems, evaluating your values, giving yourself time to think and reflect. But if you're doing that at the wrong time, it can still bring utility, but at the end of the day, it's still ripping you from the present moment, which is the entire point. Here's the thing: if you even see a tendency, which hopefully, damn, I really, really hope that you're processing some of these things that I've mentioned, right? Let's just say you're doing it secondary, and this is something that I used to do, and something that um, I still do to this day. But at the end of the day, I'm a lot more intentional. I still need to have a primary source of building the relationship with myself. But when I did do that, like I said, it just ripped me from the present moment. I wasn't even there. I was walking, whatever, doing whatever, and not focused on what I'm doing, but focused on something else that isn't the present moment. But if you find yourself in those moments, just know that, think to yourself and say, hey, let's do something for myself today. Whatever this looks like. This could look like genuinely laying in your bed and just no distractions, no phones, just allowing your mind to roam, right? Thinking and processing life is something that needs to be had, and if it's not had, you're losing. You're losing out on potential opportunities, you're losing out on potential time to problem solve, time to figure out life in general. So, yeah, highly, highly recommend that for sure. Like I said, it can be as simple as laying down in your bed. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend that because you're probably going to get too comfortable. But at the end of the day, hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. Give me 1 second. So, with this being said, I think when you have these moments where you can find time to process the way your mind works or process life in general, right? Giving yourself time to think. I do believe that this can help avoid overthinking because if you have time to process certain things, you don't need to overthink. You don't need to overthink certain things because you've already had thought about those things that you might need to overthink. If that makes any sense. So in essence, yes, are you thinking more? Yes, but you're also not overthinking to the point where you're not acting, right? Having the time to go ahead and process whatever you need to process is giving yourself the time to properly process what you need to process, and then you can act with more clear direction as opposed to just using it secondary, thinking, and not doing anything at all. If you're more likely to think and truly be in the actual present moment of thinking, it can allow you to help better steer the direction of your life in terms of what you need to accomplish. Whether this is on the daily, whether this is on the weekly, whether this is on the monthly, whatever it is, yearly, whatever it is. But it allows you to understand. Hopefully, this is where I want to go. This is how I'm going to get there. This is what I need to do, and break it down for yourself, right? Hopefully, you process like that as well. And yeah, if you don't do this, and like I said, I'm gonna constantly mention this because this needs to be mentioned, right? If you don't do this, you're going to be more anxious. That's a byproduct of not doing this. If you don't do this, you're going to be more distracted. You're going to care more about what others have to say, even than more importantly on the negative things, right? More specifically on the negative things. You're going to um obviously not be present, right? And all those issues will lead to other issues. These issues are something that are much bigger and that don't need to be as big as what people make them out to be. But if you're not dealing with these problems head on, so let's just say for example, right, you're feeling anxious, whatever it is, which obviously isn't being in the present moment. You doing whatever it is, whether this is a walk or whether this is let's just say I guess you can even say having conversations with friends. This can be something where not only are you building a relationship with them, but you're also building a relationship with yourself. Um, or for me, for example, I like to play basketball. This helps me build a better relationship with myself because I'm taking the time to do what I want and to be present, right? And you must figure this out for yourself. Every person's activity and what they choose to do is going to be different. So define specifically what you believe that activity is for you in your life and give it a shot. Whenever you're feeling anxious, whenever you're feeling distracted, whenever you're giving too much energy out, give yourself some time to refocus, to become present, to become intentional, to process life as it goes, as opposed to trying to process life while you're living life, if that makes any sense. And if you're able to do that, you're going to be much better off. And yeah, you need time to reflect. You need time to think to avoid those problems from happening. So, like I mentioned, I'll ask you the question once again. What activities allow you to build this relationship with yourself? Maybe this will look like a walk, like I had mentioned. Maybe this will look like meditation, guided breathing. These are all things that could be good as well. Obviously, there's kind of that would be a version of meditation, I guess. Meditation is the removal of all thoughts, or the attempt to remove your thoughts. But at the same time, at least you'll be more present. At least you'll be more aware. At least you'll be more focused and more intentional, which is ultimately what is best for sure. So what I do on my walks that has allowed me to process and to think for myself and to evaluate and ask myself questions and trying to figure out how am I going to get certain things done within my day. I do this by going on a walk, sitting down, voice recording myself. So basically talking, allowing my mind to think, allowing my mind to roam wherever it needs to roam, focus in on whatever it needs to focus in on, and then, walk back to my house, and I'm enjoying my time. I'm being present. I'm talking to myself. And some people think that's crazy, but I think it's crazy if you don't do that, if I'm being honest with you. And also, another way that I would go about doing this is obviously by having a podcast. Not only am I talking to myself, but I'm also talking to other people as well. Not only am I saying these words for other people, but I'm also saying it for myself. It is a reminder for me, as well as hopefully something that is good and productive for you as well. So, yeah, people figure themselves out through conversations. They figure themselves not only do they figure themselves out through conversation, but they also figure out others through conversation. So, I guess the more conversations you have, the better you can build a relationship with yourself, I guess. Because obviously, by having conversations, if you're having conversations with hopefully people that are of good quality, people that care about you, you can help process not only your own problems, but you can also help others process their own problems, which I think is very, very good. And with that being said, this should be able to help you better understand your environment, and it should help you navigate. It should help you better navigate where you're trying to go, who you're trying to be, who you're trying to be with, more importantly. And all these things that I mentioned, I think, can help somebody out if you do need this. So if you see yourself not being present, if you see yourself getting caught up with life, if you're seeing yourself deal with some of the problems that I've mentioned, right? Being anxious, being distracted, being very much overly caring towards other people's words, their negative words, or yeah, just basically not being present. Take the time for yourself, whatever this looks like, man. Go on a walk, sit down with yourself, away from distraction, put away your phone, don't think about work for a second, and just be in the moment. And maybe this is through the podcast, right? Maybe you can enjoy this podcast, and hopefully this is bringing you in the present moment so you can evaluate your life. Is it going the way that you want it to go, or is it not? And if it's not, it is not the end of the world. But you must realign yourself. You need to focus. You need to be present. You need to ask yourself questions. You need to start to give yourself time to process all of the things that need to be thought about and all the things that need to be processed. And that is okay. That is part of figuring out this life. But the problem is if you don't do it. Just as a lot of people don't do it. That's how you get caught up with life. That's how you get caught up into things and have extra problems. Life's already going to give you problems. Life's already going to give you challenges. But to give yourself more problems and more challenges that are unnecessary just because you're refusing to build the relationship with yourself is a mistake that I see all too often. So, how can you build a better relationship with yourself? What activities are going to allow you to build this relationship with yourself? Do you feel right now, and I would say should be a yes, but I'm going to ask you the question anyways. Do you think right now would be a good opportunity to go ahead and try to be present? Do you think that you should do something that is going to allow you to be more present in the moment? Do you think you should be doing something that is helping you build the relationship with yourself? And you can do this also through many other ways, right? Maybe it looks like keeping a promise to yourself. Let's just say you had set out to do something for the day. You had made a checklist of the things that you want to go ahead and accomplish. And let's just say you always, for whatever reason, cannot get certain things done. In order to build a better relationship with yourself, you're going to need to do the things that you had set out to do. Be the person that is going to do exactly what they say they're going to do. And if you don't do this, you're mistreating yourself. If you don't do this, you will deal with repercussions of guilt. One of the worst feelings of the human emotions is guilt. So do the things that you had set out to do. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If not, be prepared to live with the guilt that will be had because of you not being the person that you said that you're going to be. And there's going to be a lot of different ways that you can help build this relationship with yourself. But at the end of the day, whatever way you want to go ahead and do it, there's really no wrong way. The only wrong way is to not do it at all. So, hopefully you guys got something from this. This is all I have to say for today's episode. Just be more intentional. Do not think secondary. Do not be processing your own life through a secondary means of action. Do it through primary ways of action. It needs to be something that is intentional. It needs to be something that is going to allow you to become present. And I think hopefully you'll be much better off. But that is all I have to say for today's episode. This was episode 208 of the Life of Champ podcast. And for today's episode, I was discussing the importance of building a relationship with yourself, as it is the most important relationship you can build, period. So make sure to tap in with my YouTube shorts. Follow me on Rumble, Twitch, TikTok, and on Spotify at Life of a Champ podcast. Subscribe if you are new and you did enjoy this video. And other than that, I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure you're outworking these motherfuckers, because you know that I am. And you know the ones around me are for sure. And I hope you are as well. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Build an intentional relationship with yourself. And hopefully it'll avoid you from having to deal with some of the problems that a lot of people deal with. Y'all have a good night. Next podcast is going to be on Thursday. I'll be doing a live stream on Monday, hopefully Monday and Tuesday. If there's a specific creator or video they want to go and react to, feel free to send me the video. And also, if you need one-on-one coaching, or if you need some guidance, or you just need help on something and you want to talk to somebody, feel free to reach out at me on any social media platform. Y'all have a good night, and tap on the next podcast on Thursday, man.